Minister Josh Frydenberg live from Hobart. Mr Frydenberg, thanks very much for your time. It looks like the Labor states certainly want more work to be done before they commit to any national energy guarantee. Is that your assessment of things?
Well, certainly the plan today is to get agreement for more work to be done on the national energy guarantee and for all states and the federal government to come together and put the national interest first and politics last. It was Prime Minister Turnbull, Kieran, who put energy at the top of the agenda at the beginning of this year. Since that time, we've struck deals with the gas suppliers to ensure that more gas goes to domestic users before being exported overseas. We've struck a deal with the energy retailers to get a better deal for millions of Australian families. And we've passed legislation to rein in the power of the poles and wire companies so they can no longer game the system. Today's discussion about a national energy guarantee is about that missing piece in the jigsaw puzzle which integrates climate and energy policy and which will reduce power prices quite significantly into the future.
Jay Weatherill, for one, I know the ACT as well, won't accept the energy guarantee in its current form. Are you willing to do, say, a comparison with other options like an emissions intensity scheme for the power sector to convince them?
No, we're not. This is the only game in town. It's the recommendation from the experts, from the Energy Security Board, which is a creature of COAG and was a recommendation. Its establishment from the chief scientist, and he's very pleased that we've gone to the Energy Security Board for advice. What is important to understand here is that from right across the board, from consumer groups and from business groups, they see the National Energy Guarantee as being a good policy that needs to now get into the design phase where all the states, territories and the Commonwealth Government should come together and put the national interest first. It's been remarkable to see BlueScope and BHP, the Clean Energy Council, the Aluminium Council, the BCA, the AIG Group, ACCI, the farmers, the irrigators, right across the board. People see the National Energy Guarantee as a very innovative policy which is the breakthrough on this very difficult issue which has bedeviled the Parliament both at a federal and a state level for more than a decade.
The Bloomberg Energy Finance has done some analysis of an energy guarantee, says it could be effective, but it will all depend on the emissions reduction target, you know, and the impact, the flow-on impact, therefore, an investment in renewables. If it's too low, it argues would ruin the boom in that sector.
Well, Kieran, as you know, we agreed at the Commonwealth level to a target of reducing our emissions by 26 to 28% by 2030 on 2005 levels. That was the Paris commitment. So what we've asked for the modelling to be undertaken, which has now been released to the states, is for a reduction in the energy sector of 26%. Now, the energy sector makes up a third of Australia's emissions. The other emissions come from the land sector, the transport sector, from the built environment. All other sectors where action is being taken to reduce emissions. We think we've got the balance right, but our priority is around affordability and reliability as well. Prices have been going up too much and too fast for Australian families and businesses. This policy puts downward pressure on prices, and by creating a new obligation on the retailers to have a certain amount of dispatchable power, we will see a much more stable system where we won't see the repeat of some of the troubles and the instability we've seen previously.
Do you feel that that modelling released this week, done by Frontier Economics, would boost your argument when you go into the meeting today? And what would you see as a win from the talks when you wrap up in Hobart today?
Well, what we're seeking from the states and the territories is an agreement to do further work on the National Energy Guarantee. We recognise that the Commonwealth has responsibility for emissions reduction under its treaty obligations, which are a federal obligation, and the National Electricity Market Rules provides the perfect avenue with the states and the territories to embed this mechanism to get more reliability and to get lower prices. So we would seek the agreement of the states and the territories today for further work to be undertaken. I do believe that that modelling is very significant. It was undertaken by Frontier Economics, a group that the Labor Party federally have relied on in the past for their emissions intensity scheme, a group that has been relied on by the South Australian Labor government for modelling in relation to their own energy security target. So this is independent work done by the Independent Energy Security Board, and I feel that a lot of the stakeholders are tired of the argy-bargy that has dominated this issue in the past, and they want to see a breakthrough. And we will be letting them down today if we don't get agreement for further work to be undertaken.
You, as a staffer, once worked for John Howard. The former Prime Minister spoke to David Spears last night, marking 10 years since he lost office, urging the government, the Liberal Party, to stick with Malcolm Turnbull. He says Mr Turnbull can turn the government's fortunes around. What do you say to that intervention from Mr Howard?
Oh, I fully agree and endorse John Howard's comments. He was a great Prime Minister and is wise among all of us in terms of his depth of experience in politics, and he knows what is good for the Liberal Party. And he points out that the next election is some 18 months away. Whatever the individual ambition of Cabinet Ministers may be, it's our collective ambition, which is far greater, to keep Bill Shorten out of the lodge and to deliver good government for Australia. Malcolm Turnbull has undertaken significant reforms across the board. We've got a lot of work still to do, and we need to stick together to rally behind him and ensure that the Labor Party never get their time back in the lodge.
And what do you say to your colleagues who have leaked from Cabinet in recent days?
Look, I won't get into that discussion other than to say the individual ambition of Cabinet Ministers is nothing compared to our collective ambition to keep Labor out of office and to ensure good government for Australia. You see, Kieran, whether it's in the energy space, we're on the verge of a significant breakthrough and building on the good work we've already done with the networks, the retailers and the gas companies, whether it's in education, whether it's bringing back the Australian Building and Construction Commission, whether it's in the tax reform and the infrastructure projects that we have undertaken and legislated. We are doing a lot across the board. We should be proud of those achievements, but there's a lot more still to be done.
Mr Frydenberg, appreciate your time.
Good to be with you, Kieran.